Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Today's the Finance Committee, April 1st, and it's 5 o'clock. Item number 1 is calling to order. Public comments. Any person may directly address the committee at this time on any item not on the agenda. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Seeing none, I'll move on to item number 3, and that's approval of the minutes.
Make that motion.
Very good.
I'll second it.
Very good. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, unwired broadband Inc. communication lease agreement discussion with a presentation by Member Alex Henderson.
All right, Chairman, members of the committee. This is a discussion item regarding our existing but now expired lease with unwired broadband that we have on our water tower. In 2009, the city originally executed a PDT site lease agreement with unwired broadband to lease space on the water tower. In 2018, the city extended that lease with additional provisions regarding total rent and total pieces of equipment to be placed on the tower. And a single amendment was added in 2020 authorizing additional pieces of equipment. The 2018 lease included one 3-year extension, and that expired yesterday, 2024. The parties, both aware of this deadline, have been engaged in conversations regarding the lease renewal. Specifically, we were waiting on Unwired to provide new language or any changes that they wanted from the existing lease so that we could bring those for consideration for this committee. From that lease, the city attorney's office has evaluated substantial changes proposed, which is included in a memo and in your supplemental materials, which I'm happy to go through, but none of these changes identified by Unwired benefits the city, outside of a slight increase in proposed rent that is due. So this evening, a couple of items, I guess first and foremost, is to determine whether or not the committee and ultimately the council desires to continue the lease with annual escalation. Unwired currently pays $964.51 monthly, or just over $11,500 annually, and is current with their payments. Just one note that we included is that because our water tower is generally different than other water towers, we occasionally get complaints about telecommunication equipment causing clutter and reducing the aesthetic appeal of the water tower. If there is a desire to continue lease, staff proposes some of the following. Limits the terms to less than 5-year auto renewals and reduce the 365-day notice for termination or renewal notice. Negotiate a new, more competitive flat rate that encompasses both rent and utility payments. Remove language obligating the city to dedicate circuits and a backup power source. Continue to limit the number of pieces of equipment allowed on the structure as opposed to their desire to simply compensate the city for new additions or reduce payments for less equipment. So the way that they have it proposed is they could add as many pieces of equipment as they want and just compensate us an additional amount. And then the flat rate that we were talking about would also have annual CPI adjustments. Address removal of property rights of the city, including language that requires compensation for any loss of business or relocation based upon activities on the premises. Address the removal of necessary indemnity language in the new proposal, and any other requirements as recommended by this committee, staff, or the city attorney's office. Staff recommends that if there is direction to move forward with the lease renewal, the proposed final terms be returned to the Finance Committee for final review and recommendation to the full City Council. And so that concludes my brief report, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions and provide additional insight into the discussion.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay. Committee discussion. Anyone?
I don't feel comfortable sending it to council with their proposals at all.
Right.
Like kind of definitive non-starters for me is I'd like to see a 60-day notice as opposed to a 365-day notice. no obligations for power, including no power backups, and specific language that there won't be any additional equipment. Those are kind of like my non-starters, I would almost say, before we get into the other stuff. I agree with the staff on the rest of it, but I would say those would almost be deal breakers for me.
So right now, the lease agreement allows them to have 24 pieces of equipment. So I would assume we would probably want to limit that to either that amount or less than what currently exists up there.
If it stays as 24, I would just want something that's gonna talk about increases in size. I don't want 24,
Right.
I don't want a piece replaced with something 3 times the size, just because it's connected and I'm still considered one piece. It's kind of an overall space thing for me.
Do you suggest a provision that says any new items must be approved by either Alex or the council?
I would say that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think that's what used to be in the old provision that I mean, essentially, I think, you know, they're trying to normalize these agreements because they have, you know, there's some other communities that reached out to that have similar ones that have adopted this language, but, you know, I think based upon what we have existing versus what they're proposing, like I said, not very much that's favorable to the city's, you know, operations, so. And that, you know, there's language in there that says that if for some reason we do cancel the future contract or we terminate it, then we're responsible for helping them relocate the equipment that they have to take off, right? So, you know, but that's just what they've put into the new agreement that, you know, frustrating. And I tried to get a red line version from them, and they said, well, we don't have the old version, so I couldn't put a red line version, so that's why we have the memo from the city as a tree. All the changes from the proposed.
I would say, just as one member of this, I don't have much of an appetite for their proposals at all.
Yeah.
I have a concern with comparing other cities. Have we compared how much they pay for other cities?
Yeah, well, at least the ones that I've gotten back that have existing leases with them is similar, at least to what they're paying right now. But again, the language is different from what we have.
Did you compare Ridley?
I didn't get a response from Ridley. I got a response from Fowler and Sanger's, but theirs wasn't unwired, I don't think, so.
So the
different
reason
ones.
why is, 2 years ago, we received a payment by mistake
Oh,
to our city for Ridley. So they're paying double
okay,
what we're getting.
that's useful.
So, that's my, concern, comparing, and,
Oh, you have actual receipts.
I have proof. Because
Put that into evidence.
what
On the photocopy.
what happened is, we got it
Yeah,
in our city, we deposited it. It went through our bank, and then I realized when I was reviewing Unwired to make sure that they were current, I'm like, why do they overpay? So it wasn't our payment, so we already paid, Ridley. So it's pretty much double, but we don't know that the pieces of, you know.
Right, scope.
I'm not
Yeah.
helpful.
That made me,
Well, and I think
curious,
the
2
other.
years ago,
yeah.
how much is it now?
I'm guessing that it's I mean, hard to know entirely. I don't know how many people
Mhm.
locally, or at least in the city limits, might be using Unwired, but I think that the water tower is an important piece of infrastructure for them because of those on the outskirts of town, right? So those living in the country, and so, they were forced to, if we just said, hey, we don't want to continue it, you know, the $12,000 isn't worth it for the aesthetics, you know, that probably would have a significant impact on operations locally.
Can I ask, why do they need 24 pieces of equipment? Are they in different angles, or is it because when all the cell tower business started, the technology was
what it was, and now we would probably consider it somewhat obsolete, but the old equipment still works, it just may not work as, you know, effectively. So is it old pieces of equipment that they're still using, or, I mean, 24, I don't know, I'm just, and you may not have an answer, but I'm just kind of.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what all of it does, but I can tell you they have no more than 6 pieces of one type of equipment. So it's like 4, you know, so there's 24 total pieces, but I think they're doing different things, right, for their operation, right? And they are in each of the directions that they have to face. So, I'd probably have to get more of a technical answer for you in terms of what all of them are doing, but
Well,
it's there.
because it seems like a lot on, that the water tower isn't, it's that big, you
Right.
know?
Mhm. Yeah, there's some antennas up there, and then there's, I mean, if you look at kind of the larger, there's like one larger piece, kind of almost looks like a big satellite almost sort of thing, like those, are, you know, pushing out towards antennas that are then out on people's houses, right? So,
It is an important piece of infrastructure, but I don't know how important it is to our city residents.
but that's what I mean.
To where that may be a conversation that we can have with our county board of soup. Maybe they have a program where they can put up a tower or something if they needed to, if Unwired is not really willing to make the adjustments. But I think when it's all said and done, they need it more than we need them, for sure. So.
I was just primarily concerned about the liability, which is already included in the packet. They've proposed to remove, any responsibility and have free access whenever they wanted to the water tower and the area surrounding it. And, I already know our workers, our RMA would not approve that kind of contract language, so we can have some of our own liability language inserted into the proposal or the response back.
Based on my limited experience, I would say many of the cell tower companies or antenna companies or whatever you want to call them, most landlords will want, if they remove the equipment, will want the structure or the piece of property they're using to be returned to the original state at the cost of the cell tower company, not the landlord. They're trying to sneak one in.
Yes, I would agree.
I mean, I'm not trying to preach to the choir here, I'm just.
Well, and I would agree. I don't like it at all. I don't like anything up there. I mean, I was looking at the tower this morning. It was beautiful when we were out walking, and it's unfortunate. And it would be nice if it was somewhere else. What else is up there? What other equipment though? I'm just curious.
The only other, you know, there's probably, we're trying to get a full inventory. There's some Kingsburg media equipment still up there, which is being transitioned off for the most part. There is I think there's some county stuff up there that we have, because we have, you know, agreements with them both for fire and police, but, I don't know, the majority of the stuff up there right now is ours.
Okay. Well, I think for the $11,000, I mean, we're not being reimbursed a whole lot for the use, for what we're doing. So I would have to agree with Brandon. I wouldn't want to see any additional equipment. I wouldn't want to see any larger equipment. And yeah, I would agree with, you know, what's being proposed to not make this, to limit the changes and not go with their wording.
Yeah, I mean, we could suggest other, you know, if there's other aesthetic things that you're concerned about, them for cleaning of the tower, you know, once every so often, or repainting, or any of those sorts of things that we could, you know, potentially negotiate, or, you know, we just take the funds or increase the funds to a certain point where then we're thanking those for those purposes.
superintendent?
Right now, rents just go into our general fund, so it's just kind of.
Would staff feel comfortable reworking that in a way that's beneficial for the city and the aesthetics and then coming back?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, I don't want to, if this group is like, actually, we hate it, just tell them to tear it all down, then I don't want to spend the time negotiating the terms. So I'm happy to negotiate the terms and, you know, work with Mike Noland and his office and, you know, explain to them where this group is at and where we assume the council, I think the council would probably agree with your assessment, so.
I could easily say it should all come down, but I really do think there's probably a need in the community. And I don't like it, but it does serve a purpose. I don't think that, and like you said, but we do have Kingsburg media ramping up, and hopefully that would eliminate some of the need. So aesthetically, I can't see tearing it all down and putting our residents out, So I mean, I can understand having it up there, and I do support that, but I do think, it'd be nice to be reworked.
I don't want to spend a ton of staff time though.
Yeah.
So I would almost put the ownership on Unwired and tell them, here is our concerns. And we want you to come up with solutions, and then we will say yes or no to them. Because I think that we're in a place where we would feel comfortable telling them, no, take it all down.
Yeah.
But I don't want to waste dollars.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like the way that something looks, but put it on them so that you guys don't have to waste a lot of your time doing it. I don't want you guys to be creative. I think that's on them.
Very good. So you have your...
I have my direction, and it'll come to you, whatever we do, it'll come back to this group.
Okay, then we'll move to item number 5, other business.
Just an update that we're kind of in the thick of budget stuff right now, so if there are, I know we talked a little bit about capital improvement things at a previous council meeting, but if there are items from this group that you'd like to see included, or at least have staff research, please reach out, let us know, because department heads have submitted their sort of initial drafts for capital projects, and now they're working on year-end estimates, and then, developing the budget for the coming year. So this, next 4 to 6 weeks is really probably the busiest time that we have budget-wise, because we have the most up-to-date information, and hopefully we'll be getting some new projections with regards to our sales tax revenue here sometime this week. I think we're due to. So that's the other business that we have going right now.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then I'll move to item number 6 and adjourn the meeting. Thank you for joining me.